COD Mobile Season 9 patch notes got leaked, so we're going to be checking out everything because the meta might actually change this season. I know, hard to believe, but there's some actual real buffs this time. Let me know in the comments what you're most excited for. Drop a like and we'll hop into it. First, we got a buff to the semi-automatic barrel for the LAG-53. And as somebody who had actually not even tried it prior to reading all the balance changes, I wasn't really all that excited for it until I tried it out in-game, and shooting at semi-auto pretty much shoots the exact same speed as it does at full auto, and this buff is actually pretty massive. A 2.3 headshot multiplier actually means that it's able to one tap to the head in the first damage phase, which can extend all the way out to 32 meters. The 7% fire interval buff also gives it a faster rate of fire than the Odin, so this may very well replace the Odin in the meta, but keep in mind it's going to play more similarly to an SKS, so if you're a thumbs only player, it's probably still not going to be great. Obviously, the BP-50 was the one gun that just about everybody had asked for a nerf to this season. And while I'm glad that it's getting a nerf, it's not one that I think is going to have a huge impact. Obviously, the 60 round magazine does make the BP-50 very easy to use, and a bullet velocity and a strafe speed nerf is nice, but it's not really going to change the fact that the gun is still an insta-kill inside of 35 meters. And if you find that the nerf slows you down too much, a lot of people have forgotten that the 30 round mag is still a really good alternative, giving extra range, a better multiplier to the legs, and additional bullet penetration as well. If I'm being honest, the BP-50 is probably still going to be the #1 gun after the nerf, and if it's not, the furthest down that it would go is to number 3. The next buff is one I'm actually really excited for. For those of you who haven't tried it, the drifter barrel on the Grau effectively turns it into an SMG, and while it does slow down your bullet speed, it makes your range a lot worse. It's got some crazy mobility upside. One of the reasons that the Grau moved out of the meta is because the Type 19 was introduced, which was basically just a slightly better variation of it in every way. But the buff to this attachment effectively allows it to be differentiated in that it's still an assault rifle, but works a lot better in the close ranges because of that rate of fire interval, which will give it a better chance in close range against guns like the DRH and the BP-50. Kilo 141 buff to the marksman barrel is a nice quality of life change, as it makes the marksman barrel more viable, but I don't see it changing a whole lot outside of that. Type 25 change to sprint to fire and hit flinch probably isn't going to change a whole lot either. Those of you who have watched my channel for a while know that the next buff is one I'm going to be really excited about because the GKS has long been my favorite weapon in the game, and this next buff is kind of a game changer for a couple different reasons. First off, the fact that the first damage range gets boosted from 33 damage up to 34 means you are guaranteed to 3-tap inside the first damage phase, which is kind of insane because it gives the GKS a guaranteed 200 millisecond time to kill, which is actually faster than the DRH's 3-tap. Secondly, moving that damage profile from 33 up to 34 means that you can now 2-tap to the head in the first damage range as well, which puts the GKS in the same category as the HVK in that capacity. But the third big thing about this buff is that the third damage phase actually gets its damage boosted from 24 up to 25, which also means the GKS is now a guaranteed 4-tap, potentially all the way out to 52 meters, which is kind of insane. And you do have to keep in mind the gun doesn't have great bullet spread accuracy, so it's not like your aim is going to be taking those long-range engagements, but the fact that you can now 3-tap inside that first damage phase makes this gun a lot more lethal, and that headshot multiplier is going to go crazy with a 34 base damage. And obviously, as one of the lower mobility SMGs, the fact that it's getting an ADS time buff is a huge upside as well. Now, the AGR buff is an interesting one because it's basically a complete damage rework on both the base gun and the 5.56 mags. Obviously, that extra 20 milliseconds boost on the ADS time is going to be nice. But one thing that I will say is that when Leakers on Duty wrote this out, they kind of mislabeled part of it. So this green part right here that says remove additional damage boost should actually be in red because it's basically an overall decrease in the base damage of the 5.56 magazine. So you do get new upsides in better multipliers on both of the magazines. You get higher multipliers for the 30 round, which makes sense because you got a lot less to work with than you do with the 60 round magazine. But because you're now working with the same base damage as you are with the base version of the gun at 25, 23, 19, 17, which I will say is a nice quality of life change and is probably going to make the base AGR a lot more viable, does also mean you don't get as much upside of losing out on fire interval with the 5.56 magazine. So currently shots to the arms hit for for 29.5 with the 5.56 magazine. It's going to be pretty comparable with the new damage profile hitting for 30 instead, but it's also going to be more punishing whenever you hit leg shots because there's no boost to the base damage, so it'll still hit for 25. The headshot multiplier is obviously going to be the biggest major change, as you will be able to 3-tap fairly consistently. A 1.6 multiplier now means that instead of hitting 29.5 to the head, you'll hit for 40 damage on the head, which does make the 3-tap fairly achievable, although not necessarily something you can really bank on because it does require that headshot. 60-round magazine now effectively turns it into a true AR, although the fact that its multipliers are not nearly as good as the ones that you have on the 30-round magazine is definitely something that would have been nice to have. That 12% horizontal recoil buff will definitely be a nice addition. Ferro Buffs definitely a nice quality of life one, as effectively they're just making the recoil a little bit less ridiculous than it is currently. It should now start to reset a little bit more rather than just constantly zigzagging up and up. I will say the SKS buff is one I was definitely not expecting. This is a gun that effectively has been one of the most dominant guns in the game. It doesn't get used a whole lot because it's a higher skill gap weapon, but the upper arm multiplier from 0.8 up to 0.9 means that you're now guaranteed to 2-tap regardless of whether or not you land one leg shot, at least inside of the first damage phase, and you're also guaranteed to 2-tap from anywhere on the map outside of that first damage phase, assuming that you don't land any leg shots there either. Hit flinch reduction also means it's going to be a lot more consistent in head-to-head gunfights, and I'm not entirely sure what the other buff means, but I'm assuming it means the gun's getting better in some way. A lot of people are speculating that the reason for this is because they're adding another marksman rifle to the game that is similar to the SKS, and if it's gonna be so good that they felt the need to buff the SKS in this way, I'm a little bit worried about whether or not it's going to be a BP50 2.0. K2 getting another really sizable buff with a 60 millisecond buff to its ADS speed, and another big hit flinch buff as well, which once again is going to make it a lot more consistent in head-to-head gunfights. D13 sector buff is nice as well, I guess. I'm still not gonna touch it. Given that it's already the best pistol in the game, I'm not sure why they felt the need to do this, but COD Mobile is buffing the machine pistol, giving it an extra 3 meters to both the first and second damage phases. Hack 5's getting a buff, which I'm not mad about because maybe my teammates will start running it. Havoc operator skills getting a buff. I legitimately had to look this up just now because I forgot it even got added to the game. I've literally never touched this in my life. Generate an electronic wave to destroy enemy projectiles, disrupt enemy minimap information. So basically it's like an advanced trophy system. I definitely don't see anybody using it, but increased effective range, increased effective radius 90 degrees to 180 degrees, increased points obtained, disable score streak using Havoc 50 to 60 and Havoc assist 10 to 30. So might give it a try and see if it's worth it. And then we got some score streak nerfs. The Dragon Fire ammo capacity decrease from 4 to 3, and also enemy reveal duration decrease. This is honestly still one of the most underrated score streaks in the game, so I can't say I'm too terribly surprised about that. Cryo bomb radius buffed from 5 meters to 6 meters. Kind of annoying, but also easily counterable by shooting, so I'm not really worried about it. Serpentine damage reduction increased from 10% to 12%. I still don't see it being enough for it to actually be a viable perk. And recon enemy detection radius is not something I'm really going to bother with either. And then for Battle Royale, slight increase in bullet damage reduction for the refitter class. That could actually be kind of crazy. And Trapmaster gets buffed to slightly decrease energy required for activation. All right, interesting. Once again, let me know down in the comments what you guys think is going to be the biggest buff coming into the season. I'm definitely excited for the GKS, but that's going to be it for this one. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.